Tomorrow will be at 4. So today will be the previous time, 3:45, but tomorrow will be at 4. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters, today I'd like to talk about how the Quran was compiled, how we get this, Mus'haf, and what's the stages went through. Very quickly, it's a lengthy discussion, but I'm just going to highlight about the most important, point in that history. So we're going to talk about Tariq al-Mus'haf. We know for sure that whenever the Quran revealed, the Prophet ﷺ will make sure somebody is writing. And he encouraged the Sahaba to write and to learn how to read and write. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, the whole Mecca, there are few people that know how to read and write. And they went to Yemen and they learned how to read and write, and they came to Mecca. And so when the time of the Quran revealed, there are few, 3 or 5, just handful of people. And then, as the encouragement of the Prophet, more people start learning how to read and write. And as scholars, they count around 60 of Kutab al-Wahi. They wrote Quran in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ. So they're around 60. They get that honor to write the Quran, and they take it directly from the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Quran was transmitted with both ways, the oral transmission and in forms of writing. إذن حفظ القرآن في الصدور وحفظ في السطور. So both ways. Of course, the most important way, the one they carry it by heart. However, that another way of preserving the Quran is important, that's to write it down. So the two ways were there from the beginning. It's not later. So if somebody will ask when the Quran was combined in one place and collected in one place and all Quran was there, is that after the time of the Prophet? No. It's in the time of the Prophet. However, in the time of the Prophet was all combined in the hearts. So many of the Sahaba, they know Quran, all of it, all the surahs by order, and they know all of that Quran from the beginning to the end. So, and they memorize by heart before the departure of the Prophet ﷺ. And all Quran was written on the time of the Prophet ﷺ. However, it was not in one place. So we have to understand that during the period of the Prophet ﷺ, that is very clear. And the Prophet ﷺ emphasized about writing the Quran and copying the Quran. لا تكتبوا عني شيئا غير القرآن ومن كتب عني شيئا غير القرآن فليمحوه. He told them at the beginning, do not write except the Quran, and if anybody write anything except the Quran, he should erase it, because he wanted them to focus on the Quran. And then later he gave them the permission to write whatever. قيد العلم بالكتاب. And he gave special permission during his life to some of the Sahaba even to write the hadith. Okay? But that was not general permission unless that was the last stage of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So he wanted them to focus on the Quran. And that's why they used their simple tools. At the time, they're lucky if somebody will find a rag from an animal like leather or whatever, That will be lucky. So they use like whatever they find, like a flat stone, a piece of wood from palm tree, whatever they could find, something a little bit flat, they would write the Quran on it. So that's how it was. Was simple life, simple tools. Then, after the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, then there's another stage came. And as you know, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, during his period, was only 2 years and a half, and most of it was busy fighting those people caused ridda, and they made apostasy. So those people, they caused trouble. And there is one of the battles there was very hard. معركة اليمامة, where many of the Sahaba were granted Shahada that day, and many among them are Huffaz, al-Qurra. And at that time, Sayyidina Umar came with an idea. And he said, أخاف أن يخلطوا فأدرك البشر. I'm afraid that Qurra died, and who will teach people Quran? I want you to do something. وكان في بعض مغزاهم مسيلمة الكذاب وكان that in that time was not easy that to Sayyidina Abu Bakr to accept the suggestion of Sayyidina Umar. So Sayyidina Umar suggested that we need to bring all Quran in one place. Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, how come I will do something that Rasulullah never did? كيف أفعل ما لم يفعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So Sayyidina Umar was talking to him, Wallahi is khayr, that something is good, has a great benefit, until Sayyidina Abu Bakr convinced. And then they said, who's gonna do it? So they appointed Zayd ibn Thabit. And when they talked to Zayd, he repeated the same statement as Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, how come I will do something that Rasulullah never did? Then they tried to convince him, and he was at the same page. And then he said, Wallahi, if they ask me to remove a mountain from its place, that will be much easier than to do this. He said that's a heavy duty, it's not something easy. Then he started the job, and he had other people with him, and Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Umar as a consultant as well. So they sat in the mosque, and they said, any person that has written something in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, he should come with 2 witnesses. So they made conditions. It was not like just, come whatever. No, they have to have that piece that he wrote it in the Prophet ﷺ, and you bring witness with you. So were they sitting there, and the Sahaba, they brought their material and they wrote it down, and they became each surah by itself. But all of this is in one place. Let's say it's in one box. So that the first time was all combined in a way of writing in one place. So, however, as I said, it was written there already in the time of Rasulullah, but like a folder had pieces but not together. So each one was separate. And that one remained with Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. When Sayyidina Abu Bakr passed away, he passed it to Sayyidina Umar. When he was about to die, Sayyidina Umar, he passed to his daughter Hafsa. Because it was not decided yet who's going to be the Khalifa after. And during the time of Sayyidina Uthman, there is one of the Sahaba, his name Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, he was in a battlefield and somewhere in a Sham, in the region, it's somewhere in that area. So he saw the Sahaba, they are almost about to fight. Where somebody said, my recitation is better, your recitation is better, like they are, subhanAllah, like having kind of dispute. He was not happy with that. So he came right away to Sayyidina Uthman and he said, you have to do something. وكان في بعض مغزاهم حذيفة فرأى في خلفهم عبرا فجاء عثمان مذعورا فقال له أخاف أن يخلط فأدرك البشر فاستحضر الصحف الأولى التي جمعت وخص زيدا ومن قريشه نفر على لسان قريش فاكتبوه كما على الرسول به إنزاله انتشر. So Sayyidina Uthman, he took it seriously and he requested Sayyida Hafsa to give him that what was done during the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. So she gave him with the condition that he has to return it back to her. And Sayyidina Zayd is the same person, the one he did the same job at the time Sayyidina Abu Bakr. He was assigned again with others. And he's, starting the duty, and he was really doing good job with others. And Sayyidina Uthman give them directions how they should write it, how they should consider, how they should do that, speaking, like how they did. And they made copies. The main copy they called Al-Mushaf al-Imam. That's the original one. That's, they copy other ones from it. And the other ones, they send it to different regions. وصار في نسخ منها مع المدني كوف وشام وبصر تملأ البصر وقيل مكة والبحرين مع يمن ضاعت بها نسخ في نشرها قطرة. So they made the copies, and here is the point. They send those copies to different regions with a reciter. So the main one was the reciter, not the copy. With the qari, with hafiz. To teach them from that. Now it's like only just send the copy, here I go. No. They send the copies with the qurra, and they ask people, to consider those, ones. And any other one has his own copies, he should not share it, or he should destroy it. Why is that? Because the Sahaba at the time, there's no much restriction, and they do as somebody has his notes. So if you have my notes, I could write anything here and there on the margin. Some of that I don't write it. Sayyidina Abdullah Mas'ud, for example, he said, I took 70 surahs from the Mount of directly. But at the same time, in his Mus'haf, there's no Al-Fatiha. In his Mus'haf, there's no Al-Falaq al-Nas. Why? He doesn't have to write it down. He write it multiple times throughout the day. He doesn't have to write it. And at the same time, he had some comment, some additional words or comment that he knew that is his words, not the Quran, in his copy. I'm just giving you examples because they're copies. And when you have your copy, sometimes you make your comment and or other things. So, because we don't want, Sayyidina Uthman doesn't want people to make this as a reference. Because I know, but if I left it behind, they would take it as a reference, then who's going to explain to them what's going on in that copy? He wants to unite people on a copy that's complete and has no issue, nothing but the Quran. So he asked them to burn other copies or destroy it in some way, with a matter of respect, but not humiliated that in those copies, and only utilize, and use those copies. And another benefit of that each region will consider that as a reference, so they are not considering multiple riwayat at the same time. Because they are not in that level where if they have a dispute, they come, to a main reference, where not always they have a reference, in this. So the time of Sallam, when they have some kind of dispute, they came to him and said, yeah, you're right, and this you're right, even despite the slight differences in the riwayat. That's Sallam, he taught them, those moods of recitations. This is just a simple introduction about how the Quran and the Mus'haf was, combined, and how we get this. And looking at that, this is a great work from the Sahaba. Otherwise, we'll struggle nowadays. Is that right? You see, like now the Mus'haf everywhere, very accessible, and that's a great work. And that's nothing against the Sunnah of this. As initially Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, I'm not going to do something that Rasulullah never did. But this is not something bid'ah. This is, it's a khair and maslaha. And the Prophet, he's the one, he gave the permission to write the Quran down. And he was the one insisting to write the Quran down. But he, at that time, there was no much time, to gather all the Quran at the time of Rasulullah in one place, as the revelation is still continue. The revelation never stopped until last few months before the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with a few months, so there was now much time to do that. And during the time of Sallam, when ayat revealed, he will say to them, put this one here and there. And when the surah completed, he said, this surah before this or after this. So all of this, that's from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The way how it was organized, the way how it was combined, that's all that the direction from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as that's part of the revelation. And by the way, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself used to recite the entire Quran every year with Jibreel alayhi salam. So what was revealed that year and the years before, all of it will recite with Jibreel alayhi salam. And the last year, he recited it twice with Jibreel alayhi salam. وكل عام على جبريل يعرضه وقيل آخر عام عرضتين قرأ. So the Prophet ﷺ, as I said, he was encouraging Sahaba to memorize Quran and to write the Quran, and that's how was the Quran preserved and protected. Why I'm saying this? Because it's very important to understand the history of the Quran. Just this little information, without even going into details, that will enable you to rely on that shubuhat, the doubts that mustashriqeen, Orientals, and others, they try to talk about the Quran. They said that your book was not written during the time of the Prophet. That's at least now you reply to them. Said no, it was written. That's not a case. And forget even about the writing. The most important transmission of the Quran, that the oral, transmission, that more important than the writing. So we are not even like you. We're not compared by you about you only care about the writing. No, for us, Allah protected in the heart. That's more important than even on the papers. And that's second that comes after the first method. So understanding this, I'm sure that will enable you to to reply and to refute all of these shubuhat, the misconceptions about the history of the Quran. اللهم علمنا ما جهلنا وذكرنا ما نسينا وفقهنا في ديننا واجعلنا من عبادك الصالحين. اللهم نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. آمين.